G'day everyone, welcome to this edition of DURKO's Notebook for the 2025 British Grand Prix. In some ways, it was an interesting weekend and a lot to talk about. Anyway, pull up a pew, sit back, relax and enjoy the show. You wouldn't fucking read about it. So as we return to the Silverstone circuit for about the 819th time since the beginning of F1, it was an interesting weekend, not only for the racing, but for also the paddock, talking about the driver swaps and potential replacements and who's going to be seating where next year in 2026 and so on. So the first point I really want to clear up is Franco Colapinto. I mean, seriously, how long is that bloke going to stay at Alpine? He's on seriously borrowed time. He stuffed it up during quali, FP, and then he went to start the race and he stalled the car coming out of the garage because he got a shitload of new components put on and was agreed to start from the pit lane. So comes out of the garage, stalls the car, race over. Couldn't even get to the end of the pit lane to start the race. So that's it for him. So obviously that's given Flav's obviously got the shits, and he's been on the phone to Toto reportedly seeking out to borrow Valtteri Bottas for the rest of the season because that'll be their fourth driver and they can't swap anyone out again. So it's going to be interesting to see who turns up to Belgium wearing the blue and pink overalls. Now, the other, obviously, massive talking point from the race itself was Oscar Piastri and that braking incident after the safety car restart. Now, yes, I did watch the race and I did listen to all the radio commentary. Obviously, you know, as we all know, Oscar was given a 10-second penalty, and was it fair? Well, I think in the circumstances it was, considering what occurred. There was some heavy braking by Oscar, which caused him to slow from about 200 plus k's an hour down to about 50, and he just stockpiled the whole alignment of cars behind him into just what was a gridlock on a wet circuit. Now, none of them were on wet tyres. I don't know why, but they're all on inters. But obviously the discussion is around, was the penalty fair? What did he do wrong compared to what George did in Canada, where George didn't brake as hard and didn't get a penalty for it? You know, we can't change history. But I think the thing is, the Piastri's braking issue is that he did back up the whole grid, and he could have caused a mass crash of cars and taken out half the field if they'd all piled into each other. Through some sheer miracle, that didn't happen, and that was a good thing, because the race continued on. Now, there was some discussion about, obviously later on, Oscar's got on the horn and said, is there a chance we're going to swap the grids back, or the positions back, because that's where I was meant to be in first place, based on the penalty, not having it occurred if it hadn't been brought about. The team obviously just accepted the penalty for what it was, and therefore there was going to be no changing of the guard. So that's what I'm going to clear up with some people is, yes, I accept the penalty was fair. Oscar got on the radio and said, what are we going to do? I think it was probably not a good idea for him to get on and publicly say it. I think he was better off to wait for the team to make the call. No, we're not going to change the positions, but he wanted to obviously jump the gun and clear it up. Now, the thing that gets to me is I liked Oscar. I think he was a great driver. He's Mr. Cool, but he came to, obviously, the grid interviews and he'd obviously found a bag of lemons when he got out of the car, because it was clear to me he was a man with the shits and he didn't want to talk to the interview. Now, I get that some drivers don't want to talk to the media when they're getting pressed on what occurred, but I think, for me, and I've spoken to a lot of people, they've lost a bit of credibility with Oscar for his way he approached it and the way he handled the whole incident, and sort of was almost unable to accept what had occurred. So that's cleared that up. That's me done. Oscar's gone from about 100% like down to about 90% at this stage with me, but I think he's got to come back and learn from what the lesson was of what occurred. Move on, lesson learned, don't do it again. The other driver I want to talk about, obviously, is Ollie Bearman. Now, he had a weekend to forget for two reasons. Obviously, he had a spin in the pit lane, bagged it up, selected high gear, spun it in the pit lane, damaged the car. And then during the race, he made a bad move, obviously spinning and taking off Ocon with him as they pirouetted together. one of the turns, which potentially lost Haas any chance of getting points, which I think is sad for them. Now, I've got to give credit to the Hulk. He's waited for 290 plus races to finally get his first podium. And full credit to the Hulk. He started in 19th and ringed the shit out of that car to bring it home. And it's probably the most undeveloped car on the grid. So for him to go from P19 to P3 was full credit to him and to the Sauber team for what they were able to achieve in getting that P3 result. Now, the other thing I just want to clarify is there is obviously concrete evidence that Toto's on the phone to not only Briatore about loaning out VB, but also trying to approach Max for 26 because of Max's current performance in the championship. And is he going to get a Merc? Has he got the shits with Red Bull because half the key staff have left? And he's not sure about the Ford power units, but he knows that Merc will have a power unit for the 2026 specs already done, ready to go. But Ford might be on the back foot, and it might be just a backward step for him to stay with Red Bull. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next few weeks because Toto's said he's going to make his decision in the summer break. So we'll have to watch this space as to what happens with Mercedes and Toto talking to Max about a potential move. But then where's George Russell going to go? GR would probably be on the blower to the Cadillac squad saying, do you want to take me? Or is he going to go to Red Bull, which I find highly unlikely to do a straight swap with Max. I can't really see that happening. But anyway, that's what I want to clear up. It's going to be interesting over the next few weeks to see if Colapinto turns up and if Piastri can walk away from what happened and say, yep, lesson learnt. Anyway, that's my opinion. That's my views on things. And I appreciate you watching till this stage. I'll talk to you in a couple of weeks after the Belgian Grand Prix. Until then, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.